Everything you learned in school was incomplete. The real stories, the ones they buried, the ones they feared, the ones that changed everything, were never told. Until now. This is Ancient Files. What if I told you that a man was born in 1677 and did not die until 1933? What if I told you he was alive during the reign of 9 different Chinese emperors, survived 23 wives, outlived hundreds of his own students, and was photographed? His actual photograph still exists today. What if I told you the Chinese government itself, officially, recorded his age as 256 years old? His name was Li Ching-Yuen, and his story is either the most extraordinary human life ever lived or the greatest mystery in the history of human longevity. For centuries, people have searched for the secret of a long life. Kings have funded expeditions to find the fountain of youth. Scientists have dedicated their careers to understanding human aging. Billions of dollars are spent every year on anti-aging research, and yet, hidden in the mountains of southwestern China, a man may have already found the answer, over 300 years ago. Today on Ancient Files, we uncover the complete, real story of Li Ching-Yuen, the man who may have lived for 256 years, and the secrets he left behind that scientists are only now beginning to understand.
To understand Li Ching-Yuen, we need to understand the world he was born into. In 1677, if the records are accurate, China was in the middle of the Qing dynasty. The great emperor Kangxi sat on the dragon throne. Europe was still in the age of kingdoms and castles. America had not yet been founded. Isaac Newton had just published his laws of motion. The world was a completely different place. Li Ching-Yuen was born in Zhengjiang County in the Sichuan province of southwestern China, a mountainous, remote region known for its ancient herbal medicine traditions. From his earliest years, Li showed an extraordinary interest in medicinal herbs. According to historical accounts, by the age of just 10 years old, he had already mastered the identification and preparation of dozens of rare medicinal plants. He left his home at the age of 10 to travel alone through the mountains of China, collecting herbs and studying their properties. He spent decades walking the remote mountain regions of Yunnan, Shaanxi, Gansu, and Manchuria, places so wild and isolated that few people ever ventured there. And somewhere in those mountains, Li Ching-Yuen began to discover something extraordinary about the relationship between certain plants, certain practices, and the human body's capacity for longevity. By the time he was 71 years old, in 1748, Li Ching-Yuen had become so well known as a master herbalist and martial arts teacher that he was invited by the Chinese military to teach soldiers. He accepted and spent the next 185 years continuing to teach, to practice, and to live.
Now here is where the story becomes truly extraordinary, because Li Ching-Yuen was not a myth. He was not a legend created after his death. He was a documented, recorded, historically verified human being, whose existence is confirmed by multiple independent sources. In 1827, when Li Ching-Yuen was allegedly 150 years old, the Chinese imperial government sent him official congratulations on his birthday. This is a documented historical record. The government of China officially acknowledged a 150-year-old man and celebrated his birthday. Then in 1877, 50 years later, the same government sent him congratulations again, this time for his 200th birthday. Again, official government records, not folklore, not legend, government documents. In 1928, just 5 years before his death, a professor at Mingkuo University named Wu Chengche discovered records in the Chinese Imperial Archives confirming Li Ching-Yuen's birth date as 1677, making him, at that time, 251 years old. The professor published his findings. The story made international news. The New York Times covered it.
Time magazine covered it. And then there is perhaps the most haunting piece of evidence of all. A photograph. An actual photograph of Li Ching-Yuen, taken sometime in the late 1920s, still exists. In it, an extremely old man sits calmly, with sharp, clear eyes, looking directly into the camera. He does not look 250 years old, but he does not look like a fraud either. He looks like something else entirely.
So how did Li Ching-Yuen live so long? What was his secret? Because he did not keep it hidden. In fact, in the final years of his life, Li Ching-Yuen gave multiple interviews explaining exactly how he had achieved his extraordinary longevity. And his answers were both simple and profound. Secret number 1. Herbs. Li Ching-Yuen consumed a specific daily herbal formula his entire life. The main ingredients were goji berries, wild ginseng, hei shou wu, also known as fo tea, gotu kola, and rice wine. These are not random herbs. Modern scientific research has confirmed that several of these plants contain compounds that reduce inflammation, protect cellular DNA, and may actually slow the biological aging process at a molecular level. Secret number 2. Movement. Li Ching-Yuen practiced Qigong every single day of his life. Qigong is an ancient Chinese system of slow, deliberate breathing exercises and gentle movements designed to cultivate what Chinese medicine calls qi, life energy. Modern research on Qigong has found measurable effects on blood pressure, immune function, stress hormones, and cellular aging markers. Secret number 3. Peace of mind. When a student once asked Li Ching-Yuen for his single greatest secret to longevity, he gave an answer that surprised everyone. He said, "Keep a quiet heart. Sit like a tortoise. Walk swiftly like a pigeon. Sleep like a dog." In other words, the greatest threat to a long life is not disease or injury. It is stress, anxiety, and mental unrest. Li Ching-Yuen believed that a calm, undisturbed mind was more powerful than any herb or medicine. And modern science, with everything we now know about the relationship between chronic stress, cortisol, inflammation, and cellular aging, is increasingly finding that he was right. But not everyone accepts the story of Li Ching-Yuen at face value. And the skeptics raise legitimate questions that deserve honest answers. The main skeptical argument is simple. Human biology sets an absolute limit on lifespan. The oldest person in recorded modern history, Jean Calment of France, lived to 122 years old. The second oldest verified human being lived to 119. The scientific consensus is that the maximum human lifespan is somewhere between 120 and 150 years. And even reaching that requires extraordinary genetics, perfect health conditions, and significant luck. 256 years is more than double the verified record. From a pure biology standpoint, it seems impossible. Every cell in the human body has a built-in aging limit called telomere length. As cells divide, telomeres shorten. When they reach a critical length, the cell can no longer divide. It dies. This is called the Hayflick limit, and it appears to set an absolute ceiling on human lifespan that no herb or meditation practice has ever been shown to overcome. So what really happened? The most likely explanation offered by historians is a combination of record confusion and deliberate exaggeration. In ancient China, it was common for students to adopt the name and identity of their teacher upon the teacher's death, creating a continuous identity that could span multiple generations. Li Ching-Yuen may have been a title, a name passed from master to student, rather than a single individual. Another possibility: birth records in rural 17th century China were notoriously unreliable. A mistake of even one digit, 1,677, becoming 1,777, would reduce his claimed lifespan from 256 years to a still remarkable, but more believable 156 years. Even 150 years would make him one of the oldest human beings ever documented.
Li Ching-Yuen died on May 6, 1933. The official Chinese government record lists his age at death as 256 years old. Whether that number is literally true, or whether it represents a remarkable but more modest lifespan inflated by tradition and record error, we may never know for certain. But here is what we do know. Something extraordinary happened in those mountains of southwestern China. A man, or perhaps a lineage of men sharing a single identity, achieved a level of health, vitality, and longevity that the modern world has never matched. His herbs are now being studied by pharmaceutical companies. His Qigong practices are being researched by medical universities. His advice about mental peace is being validated by stress science every single year. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about Li Ching-Yuen is not his age, real or exaggerated. It is the fact that he represents a completely different relationship with the human body, a relationship built not on fighting aging with drugs and surgery, but on working with nature, cultivating stillness, and treating the body as something to be respected rather than conquered. In a world obsessed with youth, speed, and constant stimulation, the quiet message of Li Ching-Yuen feels more radical today than it ever did in ancient China. Keep a quiet heart. Sit like a tortoise. Walk swiftly like a pigeon. Sleep like a dog. Maybe the secret to a long life was never hidden at all. Maybe we just forgot how to listen. Do you believe Li Ching-Yuen really lived for 256 years? Or is there another explanation? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe to Ancient Files for a new documentary every week. This is Ancient Files, and we are just getting started.